Okay, this is going to be the last demo in the series for Komodo Edit tutorials, and where we left off is I was showing you how to view your work in different ways. So let's go ahead and let's look at preferences real quick. Let's go up here, and I want to show you a couple of things. One thing is if you go to Web and Browser, where it says ask when browser is launched the next time, it doesn't know which one of these it wants you to use. I would say go ahead, so you don't have to constantly answer questions. I would go ahead and choose one of your browsers, and I usually like to use Chrome. You could use Safari or whatever. The other thing too is, but I should say, I do always recommend that you check it in all of the browsers, Chrome, Safari, Firefox. If you have Opera, you can do that too. Internet Explorer, if you're on Windows. Yeah, I recommend that you just pick one of these. And then the other thing is here is where it was saying preview in Komodo tab, other split view. Well, if you choose this, where it says preview in Komodo tab, same split view, let's click OK. And I want to show you how it behaves differently. So now, if we click this drop down and we say, all right, in a Komodo tab, well, before, what it did was it literally split the screen in half. And this time, what it does is it opens up a new tab using our Chrome engine. Okay, so it's using the Google Chrome web browser engine to deliver this through the same Komodo interface. You might like this better because you can see it better. It's really up to you, but sometimes it's really confusing if you have all these things open and at once. So what you might consider doing is, however you have it set up, whichever way you think you're most comfortable with, you can always go up here where it says view, and you can always say move to split view, and what it'll do is it'll change the way that the split view is. So I can go back up here and I can say move to split view again, and it puts it in a new tab. And again, if I say it one more time, it'll jump it back down as the same screen split view. Okay, so, and one thing I want you to notice about that, where it's under preferences, I find this a little confusing because where it says same split view, I'm thinking that that means the same window, right? Like this. But in fact, this selection where it says same split view, what it really means is that it's going to open it up in a brand new tab. To me, these seem backwards, but that's just the way it is. Okay, now if I don't recommend this one at all, it does something totally weird. You can test it. I'm not going to take the time to show you. Don't use this one though. And where it says preview an external browser, it's going to have that default behavior where it just opens a new browser window in the actual browser. So I kind of prefer seeing a split view, and if I don't want to see, like I like to see it personally like this, and if I decide I don't want to see it, I can always modify the way that it shows up. Okay, I'm going to hit OK. And yeah, so the other thing too is, let's say that you're doing something where you don't want to see it horizontal like this. You can also go up to view and you can say rotate split view, and then now it's going to do it side by side. And that's kind of nice depending on what it is that you're working on. So that's up to you how you want to do that. And if I close this, it just goes away entirely. Okay, so that's how the split views work. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show you about these snippets over here that's really important is that where it says HTML, well, this is by no means everything in HTML. And I am not going to say that any of these snippets are complete HTML sources, but there are some good ones. There are some other ones up here in the abbreviations folder. And if you look, there's where it says HTML common, you hit that drop down, and now we've got HTML5 again. So if you look in there, we've got some other options, okay, that didn't exist in the other HTML folder that's open down here. Well, you can see this is located in a very different place. What I'm going to do so that it's easier to access is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this HTML5 and I'm going to drag it and I'm going to drop it in this HTML folder so that I don't have to look inside that abbreviation section anymore. Okay, now all I have to do is I have to go to my HTML, and then I can go to my HTML5, and it opens up these other ones that are HTML5 specific. Okay? And now if I really want to be super efficient, I'm going to collapse all of this. And so that I don't even have to go inside of samples, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take HTML and I'm going to drag it completely outside of that. So now I don't even have to go to samples anymore. Now all I have to do is go inside of HTML, right? Easy, right? And then it's fewer clicks and things like that that I have to deal with. Okay, and these other tools, these are tools that you're not going to even mess with. These are way more advanced, okay? Okay, so in addition, there's some other things I want to show you. Let's go back up to view, and you can see that down here where these check boxes are, these check marks are, a lot of these are things that we set up in our preferences. So if you decided you didn't want to see the editor tabs, which are these things right here, you could turn those off if you needed more screen real estate, and that's where you turn them back on. If you want to view the white space, you can temporarily turn that on, and it shows you where these little dots are. Those are tabs or spaces. Okay, I'm going to turn that back off. And then there's also indentation guides, line numbers. These are things that we have turned on. You want to generally have a word wrap. Here's the mini map. If you don't like this thing over here, you can turn that off. That's where you need to turn it off, okay? I'll keep mine turned on for now. The other thing too is like maybe you need to also be able to have a larger size than your default is set. Like if you need to be able to just zoom in on something and focus, you can increase the font size, and you'll notice here that it also has some keyboard commands. So on mine it's Shift, Command, and the plus. So, okay, so if I wanted to keep making it bigger and bigger, I could do it with my keyboard commands. I can also go ahead and get back down to my size that I want with my decrease, which is the minus symbol. And again, right out here, it shows you what the decreases are. Okay, and then also here's full screen if you want. And then the option, you can put your hover back up here, and then this is the little full screen icon in the top right corner to get back out of full screen. Okay, and then where it says fold, these are going to be some different options for folds whenever you have a lot of lines that have to wrap. So let's not worry about fold for now. That's something a little bit later down the road. One last thing that is, I think, really important is that there's a certain thing inside of HTML that you can do that are called comments. So if I come down here and I want to have some code or some text that's just for me to read or just for other developers to read, but I don't want the browser to read it, let's look at this. Let's say this is the, can't type, beginning of the page or something like that. Okay, but I don't want the browser to read that. What I can do is I can highlight that, and then I can look up here where it says code, and I can say comment region. Also notice that it has a shortcut over here. This little sort of top of the house, this upward arrow looking key, it's called a caret, but what it really stands for is for the control key, even on a Mac, okay? So a lot of times whenever I say, oh, it's really supposed to be like Control S for save or Control F for find or something like that. In this case, when I say it's Control 3, I mean it's Control 3 on a Mac and on a Windows computer. Okay, I could either just click comment region like this, and what it does is it puts these little comment marks around it, and you see now it's kind of grayed out. And this beginning comment mark, it has a bang symbol. A bang is what you refer to an exclamation mark in programming languages, or when you're talking about scripting. And then this is the end of it. And basically what this whole thing is doing is it's telling the browser to ignore this, not to read it. So if I'm going to uncomment that. So I can either do it by going up here to code and saying uncomment, which is Control 2, okay? It's a shortcut. And let's just leave that here where it says this is the beginning of the page. I'm going to hit save, and I'm also now going to go ahead and I'm going to look at that in a Komodo tab. So I'm going to look at it in the split view. Okay, and oh, it remembers the last thing that I had it set to. So I'm going to rotate my split view so it's down below. And you notice that it says this is the beginning of the page. Well, I don't want it to actually say that. All right, I just want it to say it in the code, but not on the browser window. So if I highlight this and I do Control 3, it's going to comment that, save it, And when I update it, see, it automatically updated it, and now it's not there in the display view of my browser, even though it's in the code. And so making comments is a really important thing, and that's how you can do it in Komodo Edit. Okay, now the last thing that I want to show you, I'm going to go ahead and close this split view. So I want to show you also how you can type some things, and you'll get to see how auto-completion works. Even though I'm not teaching you HTML right now, I want to teach you a couple of really basic things so that you understand at least about some of these features in Komodo Edit. Now, almost all tags within the code in HTML are going to have something that starts the tag and something that ends the tag. Not all of them do, but most of them do. Almost all of them do. So the first opening tag is going to look like something like this, where it has an open bracket, or it's called open caret, I guess. So an open caret with a closed caret, and then inside of those two carets is a set of letters that represent something. And those letters would be, in this case, like P for paragraph, H1 for heading level 1. They all mean something. They're all semantic, which means that they have meaning imbued in them. Okay, they're not just arbitrary things. You know, head is the head of the document. Body is the body of the document that you actually see in display of the browser viewport, and so forth. Okay, now if you make a mistake and you don't type the ending tag, which looks like this, okay, where it has pretty much exactly the same thing as the beginning tag, except that inside of it before the letters, you see a forward slash. That forward slash indicates that it's the ending of the tag. And later on, we'll talk about the importance of nesting things properly and making sure that you close tags properly and stuff like that. But if you don't close a tag, then it can really throw your page off. So let's say that you're typing, and let's say that you want to start a paragraph tag, and you start to type your paragraph tag. First things first is it'll come up with these tooltips of known tags. So if you can't remember exactly how to type a tag, first of all, when you do that open caret, it'll automatically give you an option, okay? So let's say that something, and I should say it'll give you an option that's based off of your current doc type. Because our doc type is an HTML5 doc type, it knows what the appropriate HTML doc type things are. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and let's just say that we're looking for typing a paragraph. Automatically it goes there, and you see that it has all these other things that start with P2, so we could have chosen something different. But anyway, I'm just going to say that I'm going to close my tag, and look what it automatically did. I closed the ending caret for that opening tag, and it automatically completed it for me. If yours doesn't do that, then it means that you didn't set your preferences up the way that I told you to in the first video. Okay, this is a preference that if you want to go back and watch the video, then it'll show you how to set up all those preferences. And it's one of the very first things I believe that I talk about where it does auto-completion. I really recommend that you do auto-completion. Now, it's not going to automatically start to complete your first tag. Like, let's say that I do want P as in paragraph, and I hit the return key while this is highlighted right here, and I say, okay. Well, see, it doesn't automatically type the end of that opening tag for me, because you can have other things inside of your tag, like things called attributes. Like, we could have something that has a class. Okay, and you see it has a different color coding because it's an attribute, and it prompts me for the correct syntax, and I could hit enter, and it gives me the equal sign. And then the next thing that would come is I would have to have some quotation marks. And notice when I did the quotation mark, it put the beginning quotation mark and then it put the ending for me. And then it puts the cursor right in the center so that I could type the class name. I don't know, it could be called items or something like that. All right, but then it went ahead and it ended my last quotation so I didn't forget it. And now if I wanted to come and close that tag, see, it automatically then goes ahead, completes my paragraph tag, and it puts my cursor in the center so I could type. That's the basic introduction of how you can get around Komodo Edit. So we've got our left toggle where you can look at your project. You've got your stuff in the center. If you don't want the mini map, you can turn it off up here, right, where you get rid of it there, and so forth and so on. You have your snippets, all right, and this is where you can manage all of your project assets. Okay, so that's a good introduction, and now I think you're ready to get started with your first exercise.